The sun had barely risen over the bustling market in the heart of Kaduna. Traders were shouting their wares. Children darted between stalls, and the aroma of fried akara and cocoa mingled in the air. Amid the chaos, Laraba appeared, her dark sunglasses perched firmly on her face, a white cane held tightly in one hand, and little Sanni, her 3-year-old son, gripping the other end as if guiding her through the crowd. Her ragged wrapper barely covered her body, and her feet were caked with the morning dust. She moved slowly, deliberately tapping her cane along the ground, pretending to struggle with every step. Sanni, small but sharp-eyed, followed her lead, his tiny hands adjusting the cane's angle whenever it tilted too much. Together, they looked every bit the pitiable mother and child duo, the kind that could make even the coldest heart drop a coin. "A bag! Help the blind woman! Please help me!" Laraba called softly, her voice trembling just enough to sound real. "Allah go bless you, well. People hurried past, some ignoring her, some tossing small coins into her outstretched palm. A trader counting his money dropped 2 50 naira notes and muttered, "God go restore your eyes." Laraba's lips curved into a small, grateful smile. In truth, she was far from blind, and the coins she collected were hers to command. But to the world, she was a helpless poor beggar, and that helplessness was her power. By the afternoon, they had gathered a meager sum. Laraba and Sanni retreated to the outskirts of the market, finding the familiar dirt path leading to a large, abandoned field on the city's edge. Here, the tall grass swayed gently in the breeze, and the hum of the market faded into the background. This was their sanctuary, the place where their tiny empire of beggary came together. Laraba sank to the ground, counting the small notes one by one, Sanni sitting beside her with a wide-eyed look of admiration. "Today, we get 3,000 naira, she murmured, shaking her head. "Not too bad, but we could do better tomorrow." Sanni clapped his tiny hands. "Yes, mama. Tomorrow we go collect plenty money." Unknown to them, they were being watched. From the shadow of a distant tree, a tall, imposing figure observed every move. Alhaji Ibrahim, a wealthy man with a quiet demeanor and an air of mystery, had been frequenting this field for weeks. He had seen Laraba's act countless times, watching how she manipulated the crowd, how Sanni performed his small part, and how effective their routine was. Alhaji Ibrahim approached silently, his polished shoes leaving barely a mark on the dusty earth. Laraba froze as he stepped into the open, her heart thumping violently. "Police? DSS?" The fear made her drop her cane slightly, but Ibrahim's voice was calm, almost soothing. "I know say you know blind," he said. Laraba's eyes widened beneath the dark sunglasses. She sank to her knees, clutching her chest. "Please, sir, please no tell anybody. I beg you. We know they do to harm anybody. We just they do to survive kawaii." Ibrahim smiled, the kind of smile that sent a chill down the spine. "I no go expose Una. Instead, I want to partner with you." Laraba tilted her head, confused. "Partner? How?" He bent down slightly, eyes locking onto hers. "Bring me your alms money every week. I go buy 5 times the amount." She blinked. 5 times? Her mind raced. "Could it be true, sir? You date joke?" she asked, her voice trembling. To prove him wrong, she placed a worn bundle of 3,000 naira in small denominations into his hand. Ibrahim counted it carefully, then reached into the inner pocket of his long, flowing agbada and pulled out a single, crisp, 50 mint note. Laraba's mouth fell open. Sanni's eyes went wide. Both of them staggered back a step, almost collapsing to the ground. Is this real?" she stammered. Ibrahim nodded calmly. "Same field, every week. Don't fail." Before she could respond, he turned, walked steadily to his waiting car, and drove away. The roar of the engine seemed like a distant echo to Laraba and Sanni, who were left in the vast emptiness of the field. Sanni jumped up, his small fists punching the air. "Mama, see money! We don't make am." Laraba laughed, a sound of pure disbelief and joy. "Yes, my son, today. God remember us." They sat there a moment longer, counting and recounting the money, imagining all the things they could buy. A small hut in a better part of town, a tiny bag of rice, new clothes, maybe even a pair of shoes that don't leak dust. But those thoughts were fleeting. The main thing was that their fortunes had changed and a miracle had touched them. Or so they believed. As the sun began its descent, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Laraba whispered to Sanni, "Tomorrow, we go do even better. Nobody go pity us. We go make him through our work." Little did they know, the man they just met was not merely a wealthy stranger impressed by their act. Ibrahim was a man of deep secrets, a collector of destinies, and the money they had just handed over was about to become part of something far larger and far darker than they could imagine. For that evening, all that mattered was the thrill of wealth, the rush of success. Laraba clutched Sanni's small hand, her mind already planning the next day, already imagining the coins falling into her palm. And as they walked back toward the edge of the city, Laraba's laugh echoed across the field, mingling with the distant sounds of the evening breeze. It was a laugh of joy, of triumph, of a life that had finally turned, unaware that the path she had chosen would lead her deep into something unimaginable. The morning sun was barely cresting the horizon when Laraba and Sanni left their small, dusty corner of the city. The air was already alive with the chaos of early risers. Traders unpacking their wares, hawkers shouting their goods, motorcycles weaving between pedestrians, and the smell of fresh bread and masa drifting through the streets. Laraba adjusted her dark sunglasses and tapped her white cane along the uneven market floor. Sanni held the other end tightly, his tiny legs working to keep up with the deliberate, slow pace of his mother. The two of them had become an almost familiar sight in the market. But today was different. Today, Laraba carried a new sense of purpose. "Today, we go make better money," she whispered to Sanni, her voice hushed but full of determination. "Al-Hajji Day wait for us with better money than we don't ever see before." Sanni nodded, wide-eyed. "Mama, we go take him today. Plenty money, ba? Plenty, my son. But we must stay serious. Nobody go pity lazy people." Laraba's tone was sharp. "We go act blind, suffer small, but our hands go full by evening." The market was busy, more crowded than usual. Mothers carried children on their backs, traders shouted prices, and the sound of coins clinking in small metal bowls echoed across the stalls. Laraba stepped carefully, tapping her cane and letting out small cries of struggle. Each step was deliberate, each stumble convincing. People began noticing her more than ever before. A man pushing a wheelbarrow stopped and dropped 100 into her hand. "God go bless you, my sister," he mumbled. Laraba smiled faintly and nodded, muttering a quiet prayer under her breath. "Allah go bless you, even if you know Sabi say my eyes they see." Sanni whispered, "Mama, why you dey pray like dat?" Laraba waved him off. "Na normal thing. Make I dey polite small, my son. People dey watch." By midday, they had gathered a substantial amount, far more than any previous day. Laraba carefully separated the notes, counting each one as Sanni assisted with his small hands. When they realized the total, Laraba's eyes gleamed. "Sanni, see money. Today, we done triple what we dey make before. You see, patience dey pay." Sanni grinned. "Mama, we go give Al-Hajji plenty money now?" "Of course. But first, we go do business small." Laraba's face took on a mischievous look. She approached other beggars sitting nearby, their eyes tired and faces grim. "Give me the money way you done collect today," she said bluntly. "I go give you better. If you give me 1,500, I go give you 200. The other beggars exchanged glances, unsure whether to laugh or get angry. "You dey mad?" one muttered, but the promise of extra money was too sweet to ignore. Slowly, they handed her their meager earnings, and Laraba added the bundles to her growing pile. Sanni watched with admiration. "Mama, you dey smart, oh," he exclaimed. Laraba chuckled softly. "You go learn, my son. This not business, so you go need dey sharp. Nothing dey come free for this life." By the time evening approached, the small duo had collected thousands of naira, far more than they had ever hoped for. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the dusty paths of the market as Laraba and Sanni trudged toward their familiar abandoned field. As they arrived, the field seemed peaceful, bathed in the golden glow of sunset. There, Waiting patiently as always was Alhaji Ibrahim. His dark eyes seemed to pierce right through the small piles of dirty notes Laraba placed in his hands. Laraba hesitated briefly, glancing at the man who had transformed their lives overnight. Then, with a deep breath, she handed over every note, counting carefully to ensure none was missing. Ibrahim looked at the pile calmly, then reached into his pocket and handed Laraba a stack of mint notes, crisp, clean, and far more valuable than anything she had seen before. Laraba's mouth fell open. Sanni's eyes went wide. "Siam Sanni," she whispered, almost in disbelief. "Alhaji no de Joko, this one pass wedding we don't ever see for our life." Sanni clapped his tiny hands, jumping up and down with excitement. "Mama, we go rich!" Laraba laughed, her voice a mixture of joy and greed. "Yes, my son, this not only beginning. As long as we day meet our Alhaji every week, our hands no go day empty again." Despite their growing wealth, Ibrahim insisted on one condition: they must continue wearing ragged, pitiful clothes. "People must pity you," he had said. "If you day dress well, nobody go give you anything. Act poor, look helpless, and your hands go full." Laraba understood perfectly. She was a master of her craft, the queen of disguise in the busy markets. She adjusted her tattered wrapper and sunglasses, ensuring every crease and smudge looked intentional. That evening, as the sky darkened and the first stars appeared, Laraba counted the newly acquired mint notes, stacking them carefully into her small bag. She looked down at Sanni, who was bouncing with excitement. "Siam, my son, this na how business day go. If you day smart and you know day lazy, life fit better pass wedding people day talk." Sanni nodded, trying to absorb the lesson, though he did not fully understand the gravity of the arrangement with Alhaji Ibrahim. To him, the thrill was simple: more money, more food, maybe one day a real pair of shoes. Laraba's laughter echoed across the abandoned field, blending with the rustling of the tall grass. The world outside might have been busy, noisy, and harsh, but here in this quiet corner she and her son felt untouchable. They had discovered a secret, a pathway to riches beyond their wildest dreams. Little did they know, the money they collected and sold was not just currency. It was a conduit of power, a tool that would soon draw them into darkness deeper than anything they could imagine. For now, the only thing that mattered was the joy of abundance, the intoxicating rush of suddenly being more than they had ever been. Laraba adjusted her sunglasses one last time before leaving the field. "Tomorrow, my son, we go do even better."
For Laraba and Sanni, the day ended in laughter, excitement, and hope. For Alhaji Ibrahim, it was another step in the accumulation of wealth and power, drawn from the unsuspecting generosity of strangers. And so began the life-changing arrangement, one that promised riches, yet carried consequences they could never foresee. The city of Kaduna was quiet in the late afternoon, the heat of the day giving way to the cooler breeze of the evening. In the heart of a sprawling estate, Alhaji Ibrahim sat alone in his mansion, the walls of his luxurious home echoing with silence. Outside, the distant hum of the city was almost comforting, but inside, the air was thick with a power few could comprehend. Ibrahim, a man of 60, was not merely wealthy. He was dangerous in ways people could not see. To the world, he was a quiet, successful businessman, a man of means and influence. But in the shadows of his opulent mansion, he practiced spiritism older than the city itself, spirituality that draws wealth and power through forces most mortals would never understand. The rule that governed his life was simple but absolute. No member of my bloodline, no wife, no child, no grandchild, must ever give money to a beggar. If they do, death and madness will follow. This rule was not born of superstition. It was enforced by the spirits he served, the very same forces that fed on the alms collected from the poor. To ensure his family's safety, Ibrahim had sent his wife and son to the United Kingdom, far from Nigeria. Each month, he visited them, presenting himself as a caring father and husband, all the while ensuring that none of his family members could inadvertently break the sacred rule. Tonight, he was alone. His family safe abroad, the estate secured. He could perform the rituals that drew immense power without fear of interference. Only two people had access to the inner workings of his household: a gateman and a cleaner. The gateman was loyal, paid well, and too fearful to pry. The cleaner came once a week, and Ibrahim had warned him many times. Do not touch that door. Sweep far from that side. Open it, and you will not see tomorrow. The forbidden door led to a room that held Ibrahim's secrets, a room unlike any other in the mansion. Inside, there was a mini shrine, carved wooden idols, strange markings etched into the walls, and an ancient clay ritual bowl, blackened with age and use. It was here that the money collected from beggars, traded weekly by Laraba and Sanni, would be transformed into wealth and power. Stay tuned and watch out for part 2 of this story. How far away in the city, people who had given alms to Laraba began experiencing the effects almost immediately.